Welcome to Up Close and Personal, seen exclusively on MalcolmPresents.com. Heard round the world and beyond, wherever beyond is. We're going into outer space now. I'm your host, Malcolm Berman, and today my special guest is Michael McShane, which is a nice Irish name.
It's a fine
Anyway,
Irish name, Malcolm. And a top of the day to you, and
how
a
about,
great road on your back.
have you ever been to Ireland?
I have. I've been to Dublin, Clonmel in County Mayo. I've been to Northern Ireland, Newry. That's where my father's family came from. It was Newry. They're Catholics who left up from Protestant Ireland. Yeah, so I've gone around a bit. Not the west side as much as I'd like. There's a lot of beautiful natural features there.
Well, the closest I've come to Ireland, I was bar mitzvahed on St. Patrick's Day. So and I wore a green cummerbund and a green tie, actually green plaid tie.
Oh wow! Well,
so there's a soft spot in my heart for the Irish, and at that time the Lord Mayor of Dublin, Lord Briscoe, was Jewish.
Jewish, right?
Jewish.
That's right. There's I think more than one Jewish.
Well, I don't know how many, but anyway, you're in the Wikipedia, you're listed as an actor, singer, and improvisational comedian. Of all those tags, what do you prefer? How do you
I'd like to be called a provisional comedian.
Provisional.
I'm only as good as the audience. If it ain't happens. I don't know. I mean, I always used to say I'm kind of an actor improviser, basically. Those shake hands, all of it shakes hands with improv, writing, a lot of it, anything. Over time, I've realized, and so have a lot of other people, that improvisation is an important asset to collect material and not judge it. You can refine it and will be criticized later, but to amass the material and see the links between ideas takes a lot of artistic endeavors and elevates them. Rhetoric is high or, in its structure or in its connecting of ideas and the rapidity of it. And also improvisation, I think it's important that it's realized that it depends on the audience. And it being live is the best of all. So it makes you a very live thinker and live performer. Even though I made my name on a televised show, improv really works best live because of the connection. Carl Reiner loves live improv. He said, there's nothing more beautiful than a brilliant mind in panic.
Yeah.
And that sums it up pretty well. All great farces. I mean,
the show that you're associated with the most, I would think, is Whose Line Is It Anyway? Which was
yes.
The show. Actually, they had the American show here, a version of it. But as a matter of fact, I was going around television yesterday on my streaming, and I came upon the show. I don't know when it was recorded. I don't. Are they still doing it new shows, or that's all recorded shows?
Oh yeah, no, they still do. The American version is still done. The conversion. It went through Carrie and a number of other people as the host, but it's still happening. It's on the CW. And some of the original guys like Ryan and Colin, occasionally Greg, Wayne, they all do that.
For whatever reason, your picture is starting to freeze a little bit. But anyway.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. That's not your fault. As a matter of fact, no. Okay, let's continue. It goes in and out. Which do you prefer? I know you've done all of this. Which do you prefer? Do you have a preference of improvisational? Do you like singing? Do you like acting? Do you like And I see that you've done all media. You've done television, you've done film, and you've done live theater. Is there a preference for you?
Improvisation alive is best for. I enjoy quite a bit. And in improvisation, singing with someone, because it's singing and with a partner and with the musical director of whatever show you're in, coming and sort of triangulating and finding something. And you always have a chance to just discover yourself, not discover in the showbiz term, but to find and discover someone who's so amazing, it's always been a pleasure to work with people. And you go, oh my God, who is this person? Josie had always been a linchpin for my success, and Richard in Whose Line, because he was the musical director and Josie was the woman that sang. So one of the few women that were on the show next to Sandy Toksvig and a few others. But now the show has quite a few more. And I would argue that, as far as I can tell, I mean, because I haven't gone anywhere in all of the U.S., Britain has some of the finest musical improvisers in women. They just have some of the most brilliant women improvisers, hands down. Pip Evans, Ruth Brad, and I never revealed Josie, of course. It's just you're fantastic, and they're a pleasure to play with.
Well, there's it just reminded me of something you're talking about, of music and improv. It's really not improv, but have you seen the show Menopause, the musical?
I know of it, but I have not seen it.
Go see it. You'll love it. I think it's scripted, but it's about four women I think of different ages, from the 40s to the 60s or older, who meet by chance. I think it's either Bergdorf Goodman or Bonwit Teller in New York. And all of them are experiencing some form of menopause. And they start, they do parodies of songs, of famous rock and roll songs.
Yes,
and it's hilarious.
They do a Queen song. They do Bohemian Rhapsody.
It changes.
It's hilarious.
It changes with each production.
I think I've seen it.
It is hilarious because I saw it by accident in Vegas.
Yeah, I can see that show. I mean it in the best way possible, running in Vegas. It's a good crowd pleaser. That's a great crowd pleasing show.
It's funny whether you experience menopause or not, because it tells you all these symptoms, and it's so familiar with me, not the menopause, but the rock and roll songs, because I know the real words of it.
Rock and roll parodying is, it's its own category, and you have Weird Al Yankovic sort of in America at the top of it. In Britain, there's a lot of song parodists. In fact, there's quite a few. In that sense, it's a great treat because you get an audience who goes, "I know that song," and then you get either that person plus somebody else going, "Oh my God, what they're saying, or how they're shifting the lyrics to their," they're very delighted by that.
Well, just something
I enjoy that.
Lyrics you remember almost forever. Like I remember going to a show. I did a show with a guy, Phil Margo from the Tokens, the rock and roll. The Lion Sleeps Tonight.
Yeah,
and in his show, he speaks a lot to the audience. So he was talking about how you remember songs, and he goes to the audience and say, "Well, I don't know how old you are, guys, but if I asked you what you had for dinner last night, it would take you a few minutes to remember, or what you had for lunch. But if I said, my friend, the witch doctor, he taught me what to do, he said," and all of a sudden the audience breaks out, "Ooh, ee, ooh, ah, ting, ting, walla, bing, bang." You remember lyrics.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And now what is the difference of acting on the stage in London or in Europe and the US? Is there a difference? Do you, especially in improv, does the audience react differently?
Well, to answer the first part of the question, the theater is different because of the cultural reception of it. It has, at least in London, it's equivalent to Broadway, the West End. I've done a number of West End shows.
Yeah.
And so they're in very old theaters, and they have a great deal of history attached to them. I think being a stage actor has its ups and downs because it seems to be the least remunerative way to be an actor for some people. And it's continually in Dutch monetarily, whether it'll survive or not. And yet you go and work in theaters that are 400 years old, almost 400 years old. And I did a little Shop of Horrors in the West End, and I was the voice of the plant. So I'd go in the basement of this theater, and I have a mic on the musical director and an infrared mic on this, an infrared camera, sorry, a camera on the musical director and an infrared camera on the set. So I can see it in the dark as the set changes. Anyway, behind me was this giant, it looked like a giant sewing spool, like it was a giant spool of thread, but there was no thread, huge wooden structure. And after a while, I asked, "What is it?" They said, "Oh, that's the original." It's two of them actually. Original two spools that made the ship rock on Captain Hook's ship in the original J.M. Barrie production of Peter Pan.
Wow.
So they roped it and rolled it, and it would pitch and yaw. Anyway, so it's that kind of stuff is great. I stood on stage and goofed around on stage that now has been proven William Shakespeare acted on in King's Lynn.
Before I forget one thing, I want to hear, feed me, feed me. The plant.
Feed me, Seymour. I had a brighter. It was. I don't have a bass. I'm a lyric baritone, so they pitched everything up, and so it was a bit more of that. So I didn't have a big rumble. Although with the plant, they mic'd me sometimes to give me more body. I was more like your crazy friend who would come over and like get you in trouble. I was bright, like more like Jack Black in some ways, more what, that kind of stuff. And it was a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, that's a fun
he had a
play.
really good puffer guy.
I saw that. I saw the play over in the Geffen Theater in Westwood, and that was real funny. But what I enjoyed more was the movie with Steve
Rick
Martin.
Moranis. Yeah,
and Steve Martin playing the dentist, the sadistic dentist,
Dr. Scrivello.
Was it Scrivello? I don't remember, but I remember.
Yeah.
And he rode a motorcycle and wore a leather jacket, and he loved hurting people with a drill. And that's what I always thought about my dentist.
He was. It was a very good production. There's a B-roll of black and white of what they actually wanted to do at the end of the film. They wanted the monster to take over the world and kill everybody. It's like Godzilla. It's like they're firing guns at it. It's destroying buildings. But the studio heads went, oh, no, and so they had that happy ending.
At the end I don't remember the end of the movie, but the end of the play, from the ceiling, plants drop down, not plants, but
oh wow, tendrils
drop down. And it sort of like shocked you.
Wow, we didn't go that far. We had a nice effect with the faces coming out of the plant at the end. They did that, and that was really, they had to move it really quick, but there was a great effect. So that it budded, and as the blossoms opened, they opened, and there were the faces who sings like, "Don't feed the plants."
But no, it's a totally different discipline from being a stage actor to doing movies and television. It seems like being a stage actor, everything, for that 2 hours or 2.5 hours, you're on.
Precisely.
Yeah, there's no way.
It's linear.
Yeah, and I know when on film acting, you do a scene for 3 minutes, and they say, okay, stop, and then they have to change the lighting, change the cameras, change that, which might take half hour or more, probably like an hour and a half, where you're just sitting having coffee, reading a book. Then they say, okay, you come back and you have to continue the scene. Do you find that disconcerting, or is that simple for you, or do you like that?
No, I think and I've only had a few big roles, big-ish supporting roles in the film, so you have more time on the set where that's required of you to hang while they shift cameras, move stuff around. There's a hoary old anecdote about Orson Welles where he's shooting in a small town.
Yeah,
I think it was like Compulsion or some play, some a movie that takes place in the South, and the local reporter was given the opportunity to interview him. So she got there early to see what he's doing, and they said, sit right here and watch him, and he'll come to you when he's done with shooting the scene. So he comes in, has a cup of coffee, has a couple of snacks, walks around, looks at the lights, looks at the lens, looks at the setup, and then he comes back, sits down again, talks for a while. Now the dress set, he does one pass in front of the camera, just a camera rehearsal. He goes back and sits down. So it's 2.5 hours while this woman's watching him the whole time. And so it gets to the shot. He comes to the frame. They add action, and all he does is go, "Of course you're right. That's what I would do." Cut, and they reset up. And the woman's just like dumbfounded. And she walks over to him. The interview starts, and she goes, "With all respect, Mr. Wells, I have to ask you, with what I see happening, why do they pay you all that money for acting? He goes, oh, no, darling. The acting I do for free. It's the sitting around that they pay me for.
That's a good line.
And it precisely is that. That's, when I did Robin Hood, Morgan Freeman was really helpful to me, and so was Alan Rickman. And Morgan saw me, he met me, we were on the set first day. And by 3 p.m., I was just like, because you get in at 4 a.m., get in the trailer, get makeup, you hang out. I was like, because I was like a stage actor still in that way. Let's do it like a dog, And finally, like, you need to go back to the trailer because he goes, you look exhausted. I go, I am. Go back to the trailer. Go tomorrow, get a book. It has nothing to do with this movie. Nothing. Take your mind off of it. Drink water. Walk around. Stretch a little. If you want to talk to people, talk to people. If not, you might be by yourself. Sometimes you have to do that. But don't get keyed up because you don't know when you're going to happen. You'll get enough notice so you'll get yourself together, get in. And he goes, anyway, you've got the job already. You're out on location. You'd have to do something really bad for them to fire you. He was very nice, very funny. And
yeah, but just his voice would relax me. I love the mellifluous tones.
He
makes you feel at ease. And Alan Rickman, the late Alan Rickman, he seems like a very nice guy also in the interviews I've seen with him.
They were both instrumental.
Both of them.
He Morgan is and Alan was. They were very, very instrumental in showing me how you behave on a set over a long term, how you contain yourself and work, and how to work. And also, a lot of it. I mean, my first job as an actor was Francis Ford Coppola.
Oh,
I was in
what?
Peggy Sue Got Married. Peggy Sue Got Married.
Oh.
I got cut out, but he saw me because I worked in San Francisco, and he always would go to ACT and different theaters and watch the actors there and give them small or medium roles in movies. It was great. It was really cool that way. And he said, I want you in Peggy Sue, but I don't know if the shot's going to come up on what day. I just don't know. Because they have to set up a pan where it goes across a group of people sitting at a long table. And he said, I would come up as an extra. And then if the shot comes up and you're there, then we'll Taft-Hartley you in, which is how you get into the unions in that way. And you do your scene, and it'll be a union member, and you'll done your first film. I go, okay. So I did. I had 2 to 3 days there, and then he said, you're up. And they got me in. I did it. And so that's how you get in your car and you watch the set. An extra. Extras, they get on the roof of the set, but not a lot of the process. Even if you're on a movie set, if you're in watching, TV, if you're a day player, they want you to be sort of a glorified extra. They want you off in your trailer waiting for them to bring you on.
Again,
if you're there, go ahead.
Continue.
No. So if your time on a set is part of learning. It's your apprenticeship. Seeing what the sound guy does, what the cameraman does, what they need, understanding how you should talk to them to get the best thing going, understanding what they're doing and what you don't need to do, especially if you're a stage actor. There's a lot of stuff you don't need to do. And if you do it, you'll look forced or you'll look unusual, sometimes comically so, sometimes not. But, it's a great fast learning. And to get the opportunity to get in and learn that, especially from somebody like Coppola, that's pretty good. Because then I did Tucker. He gave me a role in Tucker.
Oh, wow. By the way, what would you say is the main difference between television acting for a TV show and film acting?
It's rapid. It's quicker. The process is at least in sitcoms, maybe different now. It's been so long since I've done one. You get the script, you get the table, you read it at the table, and then you go away sometimes, unless there's certain shots they want you to get. And after that, then you come back every day, and you work on some of the scenes. And by Friday, you're there. And because that's when the audience comes in, or sometimes you shoot on Thursday, depending on the schedule. So it ramps up very quickly to production, to being in front of the camera. Movies, you're in front of the camera. It's an ongoing process all the time on location, at least that way. It's sort of a military camp. And it's all going on day and night. It's going on, starts at 3 a.m. and ends at midnight. Actors, we do have a relatively easy. We really have a very easy. We come in after everybody's done all the hard work of like 6 hours, do our stuff, And often they're done with us and they don't want to pay us more. So they kick us out at the end of the day, go back to your hotel, get you off the set. Um, hardcore when you start out with, I think, an independent film and stuff, like everybody chips in. If you want to do that, even though the parameters are to make it safe for you as a union member, there's probably a little bit more it's on the hoof, and it depends on each actor how they want to do it. You won't work against your union's interests, but if you want to pitch in because somebody needs help, Keanu Reeves helps them move the set because they're on location and they need to clear after a certain time because they're still on the property after o'clock. It went to double and triple time because it's a Hollywood movie. They're going to stick it to him. So Keanu's like, I'll help you. And some people were like criticizing him. I go, he's being a team player.
Yeah, but the question is, can he help them? Because I know one of my first jobs, I was a studio supervisor at WNEW TV.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, I represented management. I wasn't in the union. But if I wanted to move anything on the set, I couldn't. I couldn't even bring a pencil into the set.
I think
because it was, I was non-union. As a matter of fact, there was one show that I had that they had to have a replica of. They had to bring into the studio a replica of the car that the JFK was killed in. So the car was in Brooklyn.
Okay.
And in order for me, and that figure, where I lived in Brooklyn, I figured I could drive it in. Because I wanted to drive in this big Cadillac anyway, because I was in my 20s. This was, a big Cadillac convertible driving through Manhattan, and would feel like I was king of the world. I had to hire a standby teamster to, that we paid full scale for me to drive in the car. It sort of didn't make
that's
sense.
it. I mean, it is.
But
I think in this case, Keanu's an equity. Keanu's an actor's equity member, so he's a union member, brother and sister union members. And it depends on the person. If there's not a key grip on location, if there's not a grip or anybody to help, if he did it, people are like, okay, cool. I think that's okay, personally.
Now, how about as far as memorizing lines? Generally, you have more time on films than on TV. Is it much a faster operation that people change?
Yeah, but lines always change. Scripts always change, especially on TV and especially on sitcoms, because they're trying to take all the air out and leave all the good jokes in. That's the dream, whatever it is that makes the pace, it keeps the pace of the show, right? Yeah, I think it's a little quicker. I think you get a muscle and you get alacrity at it. Karen and I are fans of watching Gunsmoke. We watched it and we're fascinated by the black and white era. And me in particular, I'm very fascinated by it. And the amount of lines you have to learn to be a character like Festus. Festus adds a lot of materials. There's a lot of, a lot of chewing and the gut and stuff. But he's got definite lines. He's quite a good actor when it comes down to it.
Ken Curtis.
You got to memorize it. You got to lose him. There's point I think you get too tired. Ken Curtis, that's it. Ken Curtis. I think there's a point. I know there's famous actors who quit because I can't remember the lines anymore. You had Brando at one point in The Godfather that Robert Duvall had the lines on. So file folders were opened up and taped together, and letters about that big. They wrote his lines, and the shot over Duvall's shoulders. So Brando's like, I don't want to, doing his thing. Some people get insulted by that. I go, that is a technique that makes the material that the editor and the director make into a movie. If you deliver just that isolated, as far as you're concerned, abstracted to an nth degree, you don't have to have a 360-degree reality like theater does, built around you of sorts. A composition that is made out of that. The back of you can be unmade. Movie sets are great. They're all painted until the point where they know the camera can't see this, and it stops.
Yeah.
It doesn't go any further. Nobody goes over the corner to the back. That's it. It's what it can see, and because it's abstracted, I think it's a different challenge. It can be fun.
Yeah, well, this is like Zoom. But both of us could be naked underneath, from waist down. We don't have to.
We could be. I was trying to think if I could do something like get a cat GIF or something and have its mouth move. So when the guy did the some like local government meeting, and his kid had put him in a cat face thing because I'm not a cat, which
Yeah.
looks hilarious. Looks like
Yeah,
a little
but
kitten saying,
you've done voiceovers if I or cartoon characters, right?
"Yes, I have. Yes, I have. I've done that. I did a series for HBO called Spawn, based on a comic book by Todd McFarlane, sort of violent son of Satan comes to wreak revenge on the criminals of Earth thing. And I was the voice of a detective on that. I've done King of the Hill, voice for King of the Hill, Family Guy, Avenger Penguins in the UK was a ripoff basically of um, Teenage Ninja Mutant Turtles,
Mhm.
but they were motorcycle riding penguins, and I was they're a villain, a Orson Welles shouty guy named Caractacus P. Doom, and I got to do a Barry White style song, singing that like I'm so evil. That's right, babe. I'm evil than a bag of monkeys hitting each other. It's crazy.
Have you ever thought of doing singing or
Well, I sing in musicals.
doing a musical? Have you done any
Yeah,
musicals in theater?
yeah. I've done Assassins, the Stephen Sondheim musical in London. Sondheim saw it. We'll try to get to New York. He loved it. I did Little Shop of Horrors. I did a show called Tailor Made Man about the first openly gay star in Hollywood. I sang Louis B. Mayer, which was fun to do. Um, the Forum, South Pacific,
Oh, South Pacific, that's
Chicago.
one of my favorite music. Well, actually, all of them. Chicago, I loved.
Chicago's great. I mean, it's real cut and dried. Um, some ways, like Little Shop is a perfect musical, so
Mhm.
perfectly like a jukebox musical. So you wind it up and it goes, and everything bleeds. The songs and the plot just gobble
Mhm.
each other really
Mhm.
quickly and effortlessly. And so if you get a good cast, which we were very lucky,
Mhm.
we had a gal named Sheridan Smith, who's a big star in the UK, sing the Audrey role. She was amazing.
Well, I'll tell you, every time I go to not necessarily, well, even Broadway, and there are people that I've never heard of, who are doing main roles, and they are so damn talented.
Yeah,
Great voices, fantastic dancers, good actors, but I haven't heard of them. But yet they're famous on Broadway.
they are. In the UK, there's a term called a West End Wendy, where they're famous on the West End, known and used, and absolutely important, but they haven't broke into a film uh, or anything that way. That's the old like a little post-war world term for them, post World War II. But yeah, I mean, and I have nothing but admiration. If you love being on the stage, then you get what I know I get from it, and you can make a living doing it and live in New York, as much as that's a struggle.
Mhm.
But if you have a long career as a character person and you live in New York, that's a good thing. That's a lot
Well,
of actors I started out with, you know, helped create some roles in musicals like Les Mis on Broadway and toured with them after they left. I have a friend who has an apartment in downtown New York. It's actually one whole side of a floor. It was 4 units of like a pre-World War II apartment. And he played Thenardier, the guy like, master of the shop, keeper of the keys,
yeah,
that
oh
one.
yeah.
He did it on Broadway and toured it, kept touring, saved his money, bought the apartment next to him, knocked down the wall, and now he's got this huge. It's amazing,
Whoa.
easily worth a couple of million
Oh,
now.
him and Bobby De Niro, right? Live next door.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah.
De Niro lives
I
down in
I
Soho.
I drink coffee sometimes with the guy who grew up below Robert De Niro's father and Bobby De Niro when he was a kid. They knew each other kind of, and hang out in the neighborhood. And one day he came up to us shoot. They said something to him, and his name's Vinny, and he was like, "Hey,
Isn't
they knew each other." Yeah, yeah, literally, yeah, exactly. Vic, I mean, it's Vic. Hey, Vic,
it?
and that kind of thing. So that's cool. That's neighborhood goodness.
Going back, way back, when did you discover that you wanted to be an actor? When was the first epiphany that you had that you were going to that your career would be theater?
My first professional work, first time I ever got paid to be an actor,
No, no,
was in
no.
1980.
Yeah, no. When did you know that you were going into this?
I always had a strong desire, but I'm a Midwesterner. And so once I got cashed a check for it, it meant more to me. And that's horrible. If some people, I don't know if they'd be critical of it, that's just me. It was always a dream to do it. I think I had the chops to do it. I believed I had the confidence. I think there's some things I could do very well. And there were quite a few things I couldn't. And I needed somebody to call, to pace me out. So I went to college, in junior college, and I did it in junior college and became like a big fish in a small pond there in Stockton. Then I got a gig. Then I went to San Francisco, and that success continued in San Francisco. And then Whose Line came along, and I moved to London.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well,
But to
San
LA.
Francisco, if I remember, San Francisco was pretty big for improv. That's where a lot of the
Yeah,
groups
Robin
started.
Williams. He was all the there was an improv company from the 50s, the Chicago style of improv. They had the thing called the Committee, which basically was kind of version of Second City. And yeah, you had the alternative, you had the Beat Generation, and all that, spoken word, all of that kind of open face theater stuff was very popular and seeded in that town. So when you got Robin, you got a lot of other people. And when I lived in San Francisco, you had the Eureka Theater, which was a highly political theater. They got firebombed for doing a South African play. And one of the guys, now Oscar Eustace, now he runs the Public in New York. Tony Kushner's first reading of Angels in America was done to Eureka. ACT was an ongoing, still not a repertory company. So if you got in the company, you're doing 4 plays, various characters, a different play every day, which is a very old training for being an actor. So I was lucky to get very traditional apprenticeship training while I was getting paid, being
Yeah.
able to work in new theater with people who were going on to describe theater, like Oscar and Tony Ciccone and Richard E.T. White and Richard Side. I worked Shakespeare with some really great people, Annette Bening and Andre Brower. We were all apprentices. So I was lucky to be in a pot where there was a lot going on. In San Francisco, kind of sometimes nobody looks, and that's the great thing about it. Once you leave it and you come from there, it's like, oh, you're San Francisco. Hey, oh, you're there. Nobody gives a damn, um, unless you're a startup company in the internet now, right? That's
Yeah.
gone. But
Now, if you had your ideal thing, your ideal job, now looking into the future, what would you like? Is there a gig that you would like? Would you like to do more movies? Would you like to do TV? Would you like to do SNL?
I would like to do more movies.
More movies?
I'd like to do a lot. I'd like to do more films or some episodic. Get a nice character that the writers like to write for, and give them a reason to want to write for you. Because I think if you connect with a character, the writers are delighted to expand and grow and take you into corners because they see you might be able to handle it, and it gives them confidence. That exchange, again, it's a partnership you get in with people, a collaborative effort. I like being a collaborator. Well, I met Steven Spielberg, I met Steven Sondheim 3 times when he came to see Assassins, his musical, and he was still collaborating with us. He was asked questions, excited, suggesting things, and somebody said that's what you like to do. That you like to be in the mix. You're wasting time anyway in this. Like you go to a room, they give you money to figure something out, which is an idea connected to a song, connected to a big allegory. It's kind of like you're being a kid and you have a bunch of toys, and you also make your dinner. I like that in every medium.
Well, but just a story. If you go to malcolmpresents.com, the show before you, I have an interview with June Squibb. I actually have
Oh my
three
God.
interviews. Yeah, June, and
Yeah.
first interview I had with her, which was about 3-4 years ago, and she was nominated at the tender age of 84
I know.
For the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress for
In
Nebraska.
Nebraska. Yeah, man.
Right.
It's great in that.
Yeah. But just earlier this year, she starred in a movie called Thelma at 94 years old.
Yeah. I
And
love that, man.
I think that's supposed to be released in a week or two. And now she's just came back from New York doing a movie with I forget her name.
Scarlett Johansson.
Scarlett,
Yeah.
right, Scarlett Johansson, and she's a
Yeah.
star. In fact, it was written for her. So at 94. So there's plenty of time for you to do what you want.
Yeah, never say never to it. And like she originated a role on Broadway, one of the three women in Gotta Have a Gimmick
Yeah,
in
she
Gypsy.
she she was in Gypsy in 1956 with
I was 1 year old. I couldn't
with
see it. I was sitting just too far down the seats. Now,
with Ethel Merman.
yes,
The joke about Ethel Merman is that they had to lock the doors of the theater because you could hear her out in the street because her voice was so booming.
uh, I was just somebody one was a stand-up comedian who was talking about Ernest Borgnine, who said Ernest Borgnine, and he looked like respectfully went, the man who learned love at the hands of Ethel Merman. I think that says everything. You're like, oh my God.
I used to see Ernest Borgnine at Ralph's on Coldwater Canyon. Because
Really?
Coldwater Canyon, if you go up Coldwater Canyon up to Mulholland Drive, that's all the rich
Yeah.
neighborhood and the actors live
Right.
there. But when they
Yeah.
come to shop for food shopping, they don't
They
go
come
into
down to
Beverly
Ralph's.
Hills. They come down to Ralph's in Studio City or Sherman Oaks.
That's hilarious.
They
Yeah.
see Ernie Borgnine there, and all of a sudden you hear him talking. You don't see him, but all of a sudden you hear the voice, and you turn around,
Right.
Ernest Borgnine.
Right. I was in a doctor's office once and I sat next to Pat Boone. I thought that was hilarious. And he was so tanned. He was so tanned. He looked like a chestnut wearing white tennis whites. It was hilarious.
I,
It was a,
I,
I was,
he is such a sweet guy. I did
yeah,
he was interviewed on a show that I was produced with Horace Hyde Jr. and he was in the studio
right.
and he was so sweet. I mean, I was very impressed by him.
He got, yeah, I
It's
mean, that's his image. He was a nice guy. I didn't know what to say to him. I knew about him, but then the only thing I could say to him was like, I really liked your part in Journey to the Center of the Earth
yeah.
when you got shot out of a volcano. And he went off. It was like he hadn't talked about that for years. I was lucky. Somebody's got a great career like that, a huge career like that. If you can find one corner if they don't, is I did a play with Sir John Gielgud, and I
Wow.
was trying to get to talk, and I made was it Saboteur, an early Hitchcock film, and I made a comment. I really enjoyed Saboteur. He goes, yes, they shot the back of my neck the whole time. They were so convinced Robert Young was going to be a big star. And I walked out and go, okay, sorry about that. He was really nice, but I could tell it prompted a memory. I was like, perhaps not the memory he would have liked that prompted. He was like, about it, but he was a very charming man and
Yeah,
actually very nice.
I find a lot of the people are. I did speaking of London, I was at the Drury Lane Theater and
Wow.
there was a tribute to Peter Sellers, and I brought this video that the Hollywood people did a tribute to him, and I brought the video over to
Wow.
London. And
Yeah.
backstage was Phil Collins, and now Phil Collins owns his own island, and but he was such. I was sitting backstage with him. He was so easy to talk to, and he was talking about his family and showing pictures. I think he was a new father at the time. I mean, just
Right.
a proud father. And I'm going, Phil Collins, one of the top rock singers in the world. And he's just sitting
Yeah.
back talking to me. It was like an amazing feeling that I had. I guess you did that. Who would you say is
Cool.
most impressed you as an actor? Do you have
Sorry.
somebody that really stands out that say, "Oh my God"?
Gielgud, because he was of another time, and I had a lot of scenes with him, and that he was so highly respected by his culture, and he was a very, to me, somewhat of a pioneer in being so much a bit more open about his sexuality, and he got to enjoy the good part of his later in life to be gay openly and not be castigated, or because he got in trouble. He was brought in front of the court at one point, threatened to be brought in front of the court, and the Queen Mother and Olivier interceded, and the charges were removed. And it's a horrible thing to have to live like that. And they lived in it and beyond it, and was able to see guys like Ian McKellen and just a regular, and as well as regular young men or women who are gay. Yeah, he was a cool man. He was sort of his time. His technique was amazing, and his voice was truly beautiful. The hackles on your neck would go up when he spoke to you in
You,
the scene.
you said you did Shakespeare.
Yeah, Yep, I've done Shakespeare, and Shakespeare's done me too. And yeah, I've done about, let's see, Antony, Cleopatra, King John, Hamlet, Henry 4-1, Henry 4-2, Henry 5,
Wow.
All's Well That Ends Well, Winter's
Did,
Tale. Got a few more in there.
did you do it in England or in the States?
No, I was offered to do Shakespeare at the art, no, at the National Theater, uh, Mary Wise of Windsor, and I turned it down. And I kind of regret that, but not really. I'd done it so many times. That's kind of like if I was going to do, like you said, was a dream thing. Now that I'm 68, I'd like to do Falstaff again in Henry IV, 1 and 2, in a brilliant production of it.
Well,
I'd like to be surrounded by a great company
well,
because that's Lear.
you're a kid, and I'm sure that the great things for you ahead, aside from the great things that you did in the past.
But it's nice to finally do roles you're the age for, because as an actor, I grew up being a big guy. I'd always play people's dads. I wasn't a love interest or anything. That didn't bother me, but you're always playing people much older than you, or high character roles, which are different. That's a lot of fun, and that kind of stuff. But playing at being old, and then you get to a point you're in front of a mirror in a show, and you're going, "Oh, I don't have to put that pencil in there anymore. That's fine. Just powder it, and you'll see the wrinkles." You go, "Oh, I just need to highlight now to make." It's just fascinating. Now I'm of the age where I can play the people that I had to do that sort of like, "Oh, I can't see because I'm crazy," just people must have, you think when you're young, you think like, go, God, they must have wanted to pelt me with rocks.
Yeah. Well, that's why
It's so awful to look at.
that's why I don't like going to class reunions, because you see the class reunion and say, "Who is that old man?" And you find out that he graduated 5 years after you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. My dad used to go to his high school reunion in Minnesota until he became the oldest guy there because he was in his 90s. And
Yeah.
then he went, and there was always a guy he could talk to, he went to school with, same year,
Yeah.
classmate. And then he went the next year, and the guy was like, you know,
Yeah, anyway. And anyway, Michael, we've come to our end of our time. Actually, we probably did over
yeah.
30
And that's
minutes.
what they'll be saying about us ultimately, Malcolm. And thank you. It's nice spending the end times with you.
Right, but thank you very much. And when you get your next role, come on and let's talk about it.
Yeah, me and June Squibb will riff.
Anyway, thanks very much,
Have a
Mike.
good one, Malcolm. Thanks,
Okay.
pal.
And
Bye,
you've
buddy.
been listening, to malcolmpresents.com, up close and personal on malcolmpresents.com. Speak to you next week. Bye.